She claimed she was pregnant with my miracle baby, not knowing I was sterile. Our families were overjoyed, but I knew it was impossible. I played along, waiting for the truth. A hospital record I found hidden in her closet revealed a much bigger, sicker lie than I ever imagined. I, 34, male, am a biology teacher living in Madison, Wisconsin. My wife, Megan, and I had been married for 5 years. We had a good life, a comfortable home, and what I thought was a strong, loving relationship. There was just one private sadness we carried. We had been trying for a baby for years with no success. What Megan didn't know, what I had never told anyone except my doctor, was that a severe case of the mumps as a teenager had left me completely sterile. The diagnosis was confirmed years ago, long before I met her. I kept it to myself because I was ashamed, and I suppose I was waiting for the right time to tell her. I just never found it. So when she sat me down one evening, tears of joy streaming down her face, and held up a positive pregnancy test, my world didn't fill with joy. It filled with ice. "It's a miracle, David," she sobbed, wrapping her arms around me. "After all this time we're finally having a baby." I hugged her back, my mind racing. A miracle? No. This was an impossibility. My first thought was the most obvious one. She had cheated. The pain was sharp and immediate. But as she went on about her symptoms and her excitement, something felt off. I decided in that moment not to confront her. Not yet. I would play the part of the overjoyed, expectant father. I wanted to see how this lie would unfold. I needed to understand the whole truth before I blew our lives apart. The announcement to our families was a huge celebration. My parents cried. Her parents popped champagne. Everyone was ecstatic about the miracle baby. And through it all, I smiled, I hugged, I accepted congratulations, and I watched my wife. I watched her like a hawk. Update 1. The first few weeks of the pregnancy were a masterclass in deception. Megan would complain about morning sickness, but I never once saw her get sick. She talked about strange cravings for pickles and ice cream, but then I'd find the barely touched container in the back of the freezer a week later. It was all a performance, and honestly, a very good one. She was a natural. My suspicions grew with each passing day. The biggest red flag was the doctor's appointments. Every time she had a checkup, she had a reason why I couldn't go with her. "It's just a quick blood test, you'd be so bored." Or, "My best friend Jessica is taking me, it's a girl thing." Or, "They had a last-minute cancellation, you were already at work." I offered to reschedule my classes, to leave work early, anything to be there, but she was always insistent on going alone or with Jessica. I never saw an ultrasound picture. I never heard a heartbeat. She would come home with vague updates, saying, "Everything looks great," or, "The doctor says the baby is growing perfectly." It was all so generic, so lacking in detail. I started doing some quiet investigation. I checked our insurance statements online. There were no claims for any obstetrician visits. No co-pays for ultrasounds. Nothing. According to our insurance, she hadn't seen a doctor in over 6 months. My heart sank. This wasn't just a simple lie about infidelity. This was something far more complex and premeditated. She wasn't just hiding a different father. She was hiding the fact that there was no baby at all. Why? What was the end game here? The question haunted me. One Saturday, while she was out for the day with Jessica on a supposed maternity clothes shopping trip, I decided to search the house. I felt guilty, like I was violating her privacy, but I knew I was long past the point of normal marital trust. I searched everywhere. Her desk, her car, under the bed. Nothing. Finally, I went to her closet. In the very back, on the top shelf behind a stack of old sweaters, I found a shoebox. It was sealed with tape. My hands trembled as I opened it. Update 2. Inside the shoebox was not what I expected. I thought I might find love letters from another man or something similar. But the contents were far more disturbing. At the top was an ultrasound photo, dated just a few weeks ago. It had a name printed in the corner, but it wasn't Megan's. The name was Jessica Miller, her best friend. My confusion quickly turned to horror as I dug deeper. There were more photos, more medical papers, all with Jessica's name on them. There was a hospital admission form, a detailed birth plan, and a copy of Jessica's medical history. Her due date was in 4 months. The same due date Megan had claimed was hers. Then I found the worst of it. At the bottom of the box was a notarized legal document. It was a private adoption agreement. It stated that Jessica Miller, the birth mother, was agreeing to relinquish all parental rights of her unborn child to Megan and David, the adoptive parents. My signature was on the document. A very convincing, but very fake, forgery, and underneath that, I found a stack of bank statements from a secret account in Megan's name. There were monthly transfers going to Jessica, totaling thousands of dollars. The plan hit me with the force of a physical blow. Megan wasn't cheating on me. She wasn't pregnant. She was faking a pregnancy, using her best friend's real one as a cover. The endgame wasn't just to have a baby, it was to buy one. She was going to wait until Jessica gave birth, take the baby, and pretend it was the one she had carried for 9 months. And she was going to pass it off as my biological child. But why go to such insane lengths? Why the elaborate, cruel deception? Then I remembered a conversation we had years ago with my father about my family's trust. My grandfather had set it up so that a significant portion of the inheritance would be released to me upon the birth of my first biological heir. It was an old-fashioned, ridiculous stipulation, but it was legally binding. Megan knew about it. She knew exactly what a miracle baby would unlock for us. For her, this wasn't about her desire for a child. This was about money. It was the coldest, most calculating act of fraud I could possibly imagine. Update 3. I carefully put everything back in the shoebox, sealed it, and placed it back on the shelf. I took photos of every single document with my phone. I sat in our quiet living room, the evidence burning a hole in my pocket, and I waited. When Megan came home, flushed and happy from her shopping trip, holding up a tiny pair of baby shoes, I thought I was going to be sick. She started telling me about her day, about all the cute outfits she and Jessica had found. I let her talk. I let her dig the hole deeper. Finally, when she paused for a breath, I spoke. I know Megan. That's all I said. She looked confused. You know what? I know about Jessica. I know about the adoption papers. I know about the bank account. I know there is no baby. I watched as every trace of color drained from her face. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing, but no sound came out. The mask of the happy, expectant mother dissolved, revealing the cold, panicked fraud underneath. I pulled out my phone and showed her the pictures of the documents. The forged signature, the bank transfers, Jessica's ultrasound. There was no room for denial. She sank onto the couch, her whole body trembling. She didn't cry, not at first. She just looked defeated. Then, she tried to explain. She said she did it because she loved me, because she knew how much I wanted a family. She said she was desperate. She claimed the trust fund was just a bonus, a way to give our child the best possible life. But there was no remorse in her voice. There was no apology for the lies, for the emotional manipulation, for forging my signature on a legal document. She was only sorry that she got caught. Then the anger came. You were never going to give me a baby. She spat, her voice venomous. I've wasted years of my life waiting for you. I had to take matters into my own hands. This is your fault, David. Hearing her try to blame me, after everything she had done, was the final straw. The last shred of affection I might have had for her vanished. I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, greedy stranger who had been living in my house, sleeping in my bed, and plotting to steal my future. Final update, I told her to pack a bag and leave. She refused, screaming that it was her house too. I didn't argue. I just picked up the phone and called the police. I told them my wife had forged my signature on a legal document in an attempt to commit fraud and that I wanted her removed from my property. When the officers arrived, she changed her tune, crying and playing the victim, but I calmly showed them the photos on my phone. They escorted her out of the house. The next day, I filed for divorce. I also contacted my family's lawyer and told him everything, sending him all the evidence. He was appalled. He immediately took steps to protect the trust and sent a formal letter to both Megan and Jessica, informing them that any attempt to pursue the fraudulent adoption would be met with criminal charges. The fallout was swift and absolute. My family and our friends were horrified. Megan became a social pariah overnight. Her parents, mortified, sent me a letter of apology. Jessica's life imploded as well. Her own family found out what she'd planned to do, and the consequences for her were severe. The divorce was surprisingly quick. Megan didn't fight it. With the evidence I had, she knew she had no chance of getting anything. She walked away with nothing but the secret bank account she'd been using to pay for the baby. It's been over a year now. The house is quiet, and I've come to appreciate the peace. The betrayal cut deep, and it's something I'll carry with me for a long time. It's hard to accept that my entire marriage was a lie, that I was viewed not as a husband, but as a target. But I'm healing. I've focused on my teaching, on my students, and on rebuilding my life on a foundation of truth. I never told anyone the real reason we couldn't conceive. In the end, my secret protected me. It was the one piece of the puzzle she didn't have, the one variable she couldn't account for in her sick, elaborate plan. I dodged more than a bullet. I escaped a lifetime of deception with a person who was willing to buy a child and steal a future, all for the sake of money. I am alone, but I am free.